Previously on this story. Amara's eyes fluttered open, and for a moment she thought she was dreaming. But the reality of her rescue became clear as the officials carried her out. Kami felt a surge of relief, but it was short-lived. Madam Eka's booming voice echoed from the hallway. "What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this?" she bellowed, storming toward them. Madam Eka stood in the hallway, her face flushed with fury. Her sharp eyes darted between Kami's, the officials, and the fragile figure of Amara in the woman's arms. "How dare you break into my house?" she shouted, her voice trembling with rage. The lead official, a tall man with a calm yet commanding presence, stepped forward. "We have reason to believe you're holding this child against her will," he said firmly. "We're taking her into protective custody pending further investigation." "Protective custody?" Madam Eka scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "This girl is a liar. She's been nothing but trouble since the day she arrived. I gave her shelter, food, and work, and this is how she repays me?" Kami clenched her fists, struggling to remain silent as Madam Eka spewed her lies. But the officials were unfazed. "We've already documented testimonies from others in this household," the lead official continued. "Your actions will be reviewed thoroughly. For now, step aside." Madam Eka's composure cracked, and she lunged toward Amara. "You're not taking her anywhere," she screamed, her nails clawing at the air. But Kunle, who had been watching silently, stepped between her and the officials. "That's enough, ma'am," he said, his voice steady but firm. The confrontation left Madam Eka stunned. She glared at Kunle with disbelief. "You dare to betray me?" she spat. Kunle stood his ground, his face calm but resolute. "What you're doing is wrong," he said. "I can't be part of it anymore." With no choice but to step aside, Madam Eka watched helplessly as the officials carried Amara out of the house. As the front door closed behind them, she screamed in frustration, the sound echoing through the now silent halls. Meanwhile, outside, Amara took a deep breath of the cool night air. For the first time in a long while, she felt the weight of her captivity begin to lift. But even as relief washed over her, she knew her journey was far from over. The child welfare officials brought Amara to a safe house hidden on the outskirts of the bustling city. The modest bungalow, surrounded by tall trees, seemed like a fortress of peace compared to the nightmare she had just escaped. For the first time in years, Amara felt safe, but the trauma of her past clung to her like a shadow. Inside, a kind-faced social worker named Aisha welcomed her with a warm smile. "You're safe now, Amara," she said softly, kneeling to meet her gaze. "No one will hurt you here." Aisha led her to a small but cozy room, complete with a bed, a desk, and a window that overlooked a garden. Amara sat on the bed, her hands trembling. The silence was unnerving. After years of Madam Eka's harsh commands and the constant noise of a busy household, the quiet felt unnatural. Aisha handed her a cup of tea and sat beside her. "I know this is overwhelming," she said gently, "but you're free now. Take it one step at a time." Amara sipped the tea, her mind swirling with questions. "What will happen to Madam Eka?" she asked hesitantly. Aisha's expression grew serious. "An investigation is already underway. She'll be held accountable for what she's done, but for now, our priority is you." That night, Amara lay awake in her new bed, staring at the ceiling. She was free, but the scars of her captivity felt heavier than ever. Could she truly move on? Would her father even recognize her after all these years? The questions haunted her, but amidst the uncertainty, a flicker of hope remained. Far away, in the grand but now eerily silent mansion, Madam Eka paced the floor of her living room, fuming. She vowed to get Amara back, not out of care, but out of spite. "No one defies me and gets away with it," she muttered, her eyes narrowing with venomous intent. Over the following days, Aisha worked tirelessly to help Amara adjust to her new life. Each morning began with small routines, learning to make her bed, journaling her thoughts, and taking short walks in the garden. "It's important to create a sense of normalcy," Aisha explained. At first, Amara remained guarded. She had spent years learning to hide her emotions, fearing they would be used against her. But Aisha's patience and warmth slowly began to break through her defenses. One afternoon, as they sat under the shade of a large mango tree, Aisha asked gently, "Tell me about your family, Amara." Amara hesitated, her throat tightening. "My mother died when I was young," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "My stepmother. She never liked me. She was the one who sold me." Aisha's eyes filled with empathy, but she didn't interrupt. Amara continued, the words spilling out as though a dam had broken. "I don't even know if my father tried to find me. I wrote him letters, but I never got a response. Maybe he forgot about me." Tears streamed down Amara's face as she spoke, years of pain and longing pouring out at last. Aisha reached out and held her hand. "You've been through so much, Amara," she said softly, "but you're stronger than you realize. And you're not alone anymore." The conversation marked a turning point. For the first time, Amara began to trust that her life could change for the better. But as she took her first tentative steps toward healing, the shadows of her past loomed larger than ever. Far away, Madam Eka was already plotting her next move, determined to reclaim control over the girl who had dared to defy her. Amara's days in the safe house unfolded with a delicate balance between healing and haunting memories. Each morning, she engaged in activities designed to rebuild her sense of self. Journaling, sketching, and participating in group therapy sessions. Yet, the shadows of her past loomed large, often manifesting in vivid nightmares that left her drenched in sweat and gasping for breath. One evening, as she sat by the window watching the sun dip below the horizon, Aisha approached her with a gentle smile. "Amara," she began, her voice warm. "There's someone here to see you." Amara turned, her heart skipping a beat. Standing in the doorway was a man she recognized instantly. Her father, Namdi. Tears welled up in Amara's eyes as she rushed into his arms. "Papa," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I thought I'd lost you forever." Namdi held her tightly, his own tears mingling with hers. "I never stopped searching for you, my daughter," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. Their reunion was bittersweet. While joy filled the air, an undercurrent of sorrow remained. Namdi shared the agonizing truth that he had been misled by Ezene, who had claimed Amara was lost during a trip. The revelation shattered Amara's heart, but it also ignited a fierce determination within her to rebuild the fractured bonds of their family. While Amara began to rebuild her life in the safety of the shelter, far away in her empty mansion, Madam Eka was seething. Her pride had been bruised, and she couldn't stand the idea of Amara walking free. In her twisted mind, Amara's escape was a betrayal, one that deserved punishment. Determined to regain control, Madam Eka called in favors from her network of corrupt associates. She offered bribes and spun lies, claiming Amara had stolen from her. "That girl is a thief and a liar," she told anyone who would listen. "She's tricked the authorities into believing she's innocent." But Madam Eka's plans began to crumble when the officials investigating the case uncovered her shady dealings. The testimonies of Kunleg and Kami further cemented the allegations of abuse and exploitation. Soon, Madam Eka found herself the subject of a criminal investigation. In a desperate bid to cover her tracks, she reached out to Edzine, Amara's stepmother. The two women had little in common except their mutual disdain for Amara. "If we work together, we can end this once and for all," Madam Eka suggested. Isenev, driven by greed and guilt, agreed to help. The pair concocted a plan to discredit Amara by forging documents and bribing a local official to testify against her. They hoped to turn public opinion in their favour, but their scheme quickly unravelled. The official, realising the weight of the evidence against them, confessed to the authorities. The courtroom was packed on the day of Madam Eka and Ezine's trial. The air buzzed with anticipation as people whispered about the high-profile case. Amara, sitting in the gallery beside Aisha, felt her heart pound as the proceedings began. The prosecution presented a compelling case, detailing the years of abuse Amara had endured and the illegal acts committed by Madame Eka and Izine. Witnesses including Kunle, Kami, and the officials who had rescued Amara took the stand one by one. Their testimonies painted a damning picture of the two women. When it was Ezine's turn to speak, she broke down in tears. "I didn't know it would go this far," she sobbed, her voice trembling. "I thought I was doing what was best for my family." Her words rang hollow, but Amara couldn't ignore the flicker of regret in her stepmother's eyes. Madam Eka, on the other hand, remained defiant. She accused everyone, including Amara, of lying to ruin her reputation. But her arrogance only strengthened the case against her. The judge, unimpressed by her theatrics, delivered a scathing rebuke before announcing the verdict. Both women were found guilty on multiple counts, including child abuse, human trafficking, and obstruction of justice. They were sentenced to lengthy prison terms, their once powerful reputations reduced to nothing. As the gavel struck, Amara felt a surge of relief and a wave of emotions she couldn't fully process. Justice had been served, but the pain of her past remained. Still, she held her head high, knowing this was the beginning of a new chapter. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed Amara, eager for a statement. She looked into the cameras and said, "This isn't just my story. It's the story of every child who has been silenced, abused, and forgotten. Justice is possible, and we will keep fighting for it." In the crowd, Aisha squeezed Amara's hand. "You've done something incredible today," she said softly. Amara nodded, the weight on her shoulders finally beginning to lift. But she knew her journey wasn't over. There were still scars to heal, relationships to mend, and a future to build. 15 years later, Amara's advocacy work had grown far beyond what she ever imagined. What started as a small initiative to provide support for rescued children had now become a movement. Through her foundation, Second Chances, Amara had begun changing lives. Stories of children rescued from servitude and reintegrated into schools spread like wildfire, touching hearts across her community. Amara's name became synonymous with hope, but her work wasn't without challenges. Late one evening, as she reviewed case files, a soft knock at her office door startled her. It was Kami, her childhood friend, now a trusted ally in the foundation. "We have another case, Amara," Kami said, handing over a file. It contained the story of a young boy who had been trafficked. His story mirrored Amara's own, and her heart ached for him. "Let's act fast," she said, determination glinting in her eyes. Word of Amara's work began to spread beyond the community. Parents, social workers, and even government agencies reached out for support or guidance. But with success came resistance, from those whose illicit operations she was now threatening. Madam Eka's old associates, angered by their losses, began to spread rumours about Amara's intentions. Some called her work a publicity stunt. Others tried to intimidate her team. But the ripple effect of her work continued to grow stronger. inspiring people to take a stand against injustice. The growth of Amara's foundation caught the attention of a powerful businessman with ties to a trafficking network. When authorities raided his property, his lawyers filed a countersuit, accusing Amara's foundation of defamation. The news hit her like a thunderbolt. How dare they twist the truth? Amara fumed during an emergency meeting with her legal team. The foundation's staff sat in tense silence, their usually vibrant energy replaced by fear. If the lawsuit succeeded, Second Chances would face severe financial penalties and potentially shut down. Kami voiced what everyone feared. Amara, if we lose this case, everything we've worked for will be gone. Amara clenched her fists. She knew giving up wasn't an option, but the weight of the battle ahead was suffocating. Amara found herself sitting on her porch late into the night, her mind swirling with doubts. That's when David, a vibrant member of her team who had been very supportive, appeared, carrying a tray with 2 mugs of tea. "You didn't eat dinner?" he said, setting the tray down and sitting beside her. "I'm not hungry," she admitted. "I'm just terrified, David. What if we lose? What if I fail?" David placed a reassuring hand over hers. "You won't. You're the bravest person I know, Amara, and you don't have to fight this alone." His words felt like a balm on her frayed nerves. Over the next few weeks, David became her rock. He helped to organize community fundraisers, rallied volunteers, and even connected Amara with a top legal team willing to work pro bono. Their bond deepened, and despite the chaos, Amara found comfort in David's unwavering presence. In the midst of the lawsuit, Amara decided to reconnect with her father, Namdi. They met at a quiet park, the tension palpable as they exchanged pleasantries. "I owe you an apology, Amara," Namdi said finally, his voice thick with emotion. "For not seeing the truth sooner. For letting you down." Amara looked into his tear-filled eyes and felt the anger she had carried for years start to melt. "You made mistakes, Papa," she said gently, "but I believe in second chances. Let's move forward." For the first time, father and daughter embraced without the weight of their past holding them back. Amara felt a sense of closure she hadn't realized she needed. The tide turned when Amara's foundation won the lawsuit, solidifying its credibility. The victory caught the attention of national media, and soon, Amara was being honored with a humanitarian award for her contributions to child welfare. As she stood on stage to receive the award, she gazed at the audience, which included her father, Kame, and David. "This award isn't just for me," she said, her voice steady. "It's for every child who deserves a second chance at life, and for every person who believes we can create a world without servitude." The standing ovation brought tears to her eyes. For the first time, Amara felt truly seen, not as a victim, but as a victor. David chose the perfect moment to propose. A quiet evening after the award ceremony, just the two of them on a starlit balcony. "Amara," he began, kneeling on one knee, "you've taught me the meaning of courage, resilience, and love. Will you let me stand by your side for the rest of our lives?" Amara froze. Memories of her past, her fears, and her doubts threatened to overwhelm her. "David, I don't know if I can," she stammered, tears streaming down her face. David stood and took her hands in his. "I don't need you to be perfect, Amara. I just need you to be you. Together we can face anything." Amara shook her head softly, wiping the tears with the back of her hand. She turned around and walked away, leaving David standing all mo himself in the balcony. The world stood still, and he felt as though all his energy had been sapped away. However, after a sleepless night of reflection, Amara found herself standing outside David's door. When he opened it, she threw her arms around him. "Yes, she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Their kiss was a promise of a future filled with love and hope, a stark contrast to the pain that had once defined her life. Amara and David's wedding was a celebration of resilience and love. Friends, family, and supporters of the foundation gathered to witness the union of two souls who had weathered life's storms together. As Amara walked down the aisle, she felt the weight of her past lift entirely. This was her new chapter, a life of happiness and fulfillment. On her honeymoon, Amara sat by the ocean with David, reflecting on her journey. "I was once a girl without hope," she said softly. "But now I've found freedom, love, and purpose." David squeezed her hand. "And you've given that same freedom to countless others." Amara smiled, her heart full. For the first time in years, she felt whole, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of love. Did you enjoy the story? I hope it inspired you. This tale teaches us that no matter where life takes us, no matter the challenges, struggles, or obstacles in our path, resilience and determination can lead us beyond our wildest dreams. Never underestimate your own strength. To all parents, let's be mindful of our children's struggles. Assumptions can be costly, and a little attention today can make all the difference in their future. If you loved this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out on more exciting tales filled with wisdom and life lessons. Like, share, and drop a comment. Your thoughts matter. Now, let's dive into the next story. I know you'll love it. Cheers and stay blessed.